Let's start with some quarterback observations with Matt Ryan. Matt, how are you doing, man?
Kyle, doing awesome, man. Good day of football yesterday. Championship weekend is. I mean, I love the Super Bowl. Don't get me wrong, but championship weekend's the best, right? You got the four best
Yep.
teams going at it, and with the chance, with everything on the line, it's just the drama's high. It's fun to watch, and I thought both games didn't disappoint yesterday.
So for a guy like Jayden Daniels, I want to preface this with saying, his lack of experience was bolstered by Super Bowl winning experience that Dan Quinn and the management in Washington brought in to be a part of the Commanders. And I think about a guy like Zach Ertz, who's been to the top of the mountain and has performed as such as of late. And then I think about the offensive line with Allegretti and Wiley and a number of guys stepping up in big spots, Frankie Louvu. But I feel like we are going to, when we look back in history at this rookie year, we're going to gloss over the fact that Jayden Daniels played a relatively clean game. And Jayden Daniels did everything in his power to put his best foot forward against this Philadelphia Eagles team, who was clearly the better football team, Matt.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, listen, I thought Jaden played well. The Commanders asked a ton from him the entire year, right? To really shoulder the load of the offense with the number of design runs that they have for him, his scrambling ability, throwing the football. I think he was 48 pass attempts yesterday. No one else is over 35 in those games, in the championship games. So the amount they put on his shoulders was a ton. And it's just so impressive that he was able to handle that, through the entirety of the season, through the regular season, through the two playoff wins and into the championship game. I thought he played well yesterday. They fell short, but they exceeded expectations. They came into this season, and I don't think any of us, nobody had them making the playoffs, let alone making the championship game. And his ability to elevate the group around him and make the players around him better, right, and bring them to life and give them a chance. I walk away from it, even with the disappointing loss for them, right? You don't know when you're going to get these opportunities again, but it just feels like he's going to give them a chance for the next decade to have, three or four opportunities in championship games. And he's proven that he's comfortable in those, right? And he's going to deliver and he's going to play well. So
What
I leave that game watching him and watching them overwhelmingly positive.
Yeah, absolutely. And you said you don't know when the next time they're going to be back in this situation is, but for those of you who don't understand, we're talking about two teams that are division rivals. And while it may not end up being in the NFC Championship, we are going to get to see Jalen versus Jayden for quite some time. Really exciting stuff. And obviously a lot of work to be done to, continue to bolster that roster in Washington to be able to make it equal with the superheroes, the Marvel character cast that has been assembled in Philadelphia. All credit to Howie Roseman and Nick Sirianni for building this thing from the top down and then obviously through the trenches. And I want to start there with the trenches. We take a look at Saquon Barkley running the football, the things that it opens up for that offense, but it starts with the offensive line, obviously in the run game. But I want to talk a bit about Jalen Hurts and the things that we were able to see from him while being protected so well by that Philadelphia offensive line. Matt, what did you see from him? And did it answer any questions? Did it quell any anxieties you may have had? I'm not saying you did have them, but if they were existent, what did he show you?
I thought he played maybe his best game of the year in terms of throwing the football. I think coming out early too, he looked in rhythm. He looked comfortable. He was throwing the ball accurately with touch. There were some corner routes that they hit that were beautiful on time on the sideline. And then the go route that he hit on the fourth down to A.J. Brown it was an absolute dime. So I thought he looked his most comfortable throwing the football, particularly since coming back from the concussion and the knee and all of those things. He looked really, really good. I thought as a team, it was their best overall performance. Running the football was fantastic. Defense was fantastic. And it's amazing to me. They're peaking at the right time. We go back to that game, that Super Bowl that they were in 2 years ago. Jalen Hurts played incredible in that game. And yesterday felt a lot like that, right? The accuracy down the field, just the rhythm with which he was playing. I thought it was the best rhythm I saw from him this season. The best rhythm, the best timing, and I think it comes at a really good time getting ready to go play the Chiefs in 2 weeks.
I mean, you said it. Rhythm and timing is everything, particularly at the quarterback position. And he's not going to have the luxury of being able to sit back there and pat that football. I mean, at times the ball was out, but there was still some times for fans of offensive football, good quarterbacking that leaves you wanting that football to get out of his hand. He's back there watching things develop. And while some of those things were probably good decisions, and granted, I'm not a quarterback, I'm just an O lineman. I'm always saying just throw the damn ball, get it out of your hand. Against Steve Spagnuolo, you're not going to have that luxury because you and I both know it's going to be one guy up the middle, one guy off the edge. You're going to be hot off one guy, and there's going to be one guy that we're unaccounted for. So that ball has to come out. And to your point, we're going to have to see him be really efficient, in rhythm, and have good timing in the passing game. Now, I want to talk to you about that Eagles running game, in particular, that tush push debacle that we saw yesterday. What did you see, and what's your reaction to the tush push situation yesterday?
I mean, it was almost laughable. As you're watching, just look at them shooting their shot, going over the top, and everything that's going on there right from that line of scrimmage. The explanation from Hockley right there of what was going to happen. Like, it was crazy to me. And we were getting prepped, ready for our show at this point, and I'm only catching bits and pieces of it in my ear from what's being said and what's being shown. During that whole situation that was going down. I don't know how you regulate it, right? Because quarterback sneaks have been a part of the game for forever. And if we're not allowed to push from behind, I know there's the rules where you're not allowed to pull, but there has nothing been said about pushing or anything like that. So I think they have to take a look at it because the goal line situation was, I mean, it had us all laughing on the set just watching it. Like, what? Are you just going to award?
It feels like the only chance you have is to like guess, know it's coming, and try to jump the snap. It reminds me of
Troy Polamalu coming over the top.
Yes, when I first started watching football, it was like the old film. There was guys blocking like this, and then I'm sure the first guy that reached out and grabbed somebody by the V of his neck, it was just like, "Come here!" And they were like, "Hey, that's not allowed." You were talking about it. The quarterback sneak has been part of the game. They've just perfected it in Philadelphia, not only with personnel, but technique. And I don't think people understand the mental commitment it takes to line up there at the guard positions, at the center position, and just to put your neck and your head in it every single time. And they do it without fail, and they do it without blinking. And that's the reason they're the best in it. And while talking about being the best in it, I would be remiss if I didn't use that as a segue to talk about Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen and that AFC Championship game at Arrowhead. The Arrowhead Invitational, which once again ended in a fabulous way for Chiefs fans, at least, and for Bills fans, I know that they're still probably hitting that snooze button in their bed. What did you see from these quarterbacks? Let's start with Josh Allen. The early game jitters, it seemed like he needed to settle in a little bit. What did you see from him throughout the course of the game?
I agree. I think started that game, and you could tell he felt the weight of the situation. And listen, that's he's not alone in that. I've seen great players in championship games or Super Bowls, feel that. I think that's human. I think he did settle into the game. I really do. The first two passes were like, no. Like, this is not what we've been doing all year. We have not been putting the ball in harm's way. And I do think he settled in after that. I'm still bullish on Josh, and I'm still bullish on Lamar too, right? I lump these guys in. We've talked about both of them all year in tandem, but I just think there's going to be a time, and I thought maybe the time was yesterday for Josh, to get over that hump. I think there's going to be a time that he gets over the hump, that he finds a way. I think there's going to be a time where Lamar does the same. I think these guys are just too good, and their football teams around them are too good. But you have to play a perfect football game if you're going to beat the Chiefs in the playoffs in Arrowhead. You've got to play a perfect football game, and that starts from the first drive, right? You don't know the way the Chiefs have played. It's a limited possession game when you're going against them. Typically, in the average game, you're talking about getting somewhere between 12, 13, 14 possessions. If you play the Chiefs, it's probably going to be about 10, given the way that they're structured now. So you're talking about 2 or 3 less possessions that you're going to get. The margin for error is very, very small. And so the way that you start the first 15 in your game plan, you've got to be rock solid. You don't have time to ease yourself into it because of the limited number of possessions that you get going against them. I think in my head, I watched Josh Allen as a player. I think there's going to be a time where he makes his run and he wins a Super Bowl. I think the same thing for Lamar Jackson. Does he correct it? I think yes, man. He's too good of a player. He's been too good of a competitor in games. He's comfortable in the high pressure situations. But he needs a complete performance. Like he needs that pitching performance where you start out in the first inning and you're dominant and you pitch that no-hitter all the way through the ninth.
Yeah, you know what I talk about? I always make cross-sport references, and we've seen recently a guy like Aaron Judge, who's been as dominant as anybody in the regular season. And then for whatever reason, the Yankees get into the postseason, they get into meaningful games, and Aaron Judge comes back down to earth a bit relative to his regular season performance. Well, you look across the field, and on the other sideline in that winter jacket, that thing has become iconic, that red winter jacket. It's Patrick Mahomes, who's Kurt Schilling. He's Madison Bumgarner, and every opportunity that he has on the biggest stage, he's going to be out there throwing knives at his opponents. It was fantastic to watch. You mentioned the first 15 for the Kansas City Chiefs. Take me through what you saw from the opening act for the Kansas City Chiefs offense and Patrick Mahomes.
From start to end, and I understand they had the turnover on the fumble. I think it was maybe the second drive or third drive. I can't remember exactly the sequence, but the first drive was perfection, right? The ability to use some of the RPO stuff, get the linebackers moving and replace the voids in the zone coverage was phenomenal. I thought then adjusting, as Benford went out and going directly at Elam, right, of not hesitating and getting, the wide receivers that hadn't been a big part of what they'd done the previous week, get them going a little bit and go right at Elam on the outside and take some of those easy completions and take advantage with Xavier Worthy of a mismatch, of a guy that's down, of a backup that's in, playing in replacement. So I thought Andy Reid was phenomenal from the start, and I loved him at the end of the game too. I just thought the aggressive nature after they get the stop on the fourth down to come out and put that game away, the roll pass with the speed break huddle, right? They're in that huddle, they explode to the line of scrimmage. You're expecting something inside, boom, they run outside and he dumps it into the flat, they get the first down. The pass that they throw with the rub routes to get the flat route open on the side to eventually seal that game. It's brilliant execution. It's brilliant play calling. And there's just no pulse to anybody in that Chiefs organization. They just make the plays when they need to make them.
Yeah, you know what? Speaking of making plays when you need to make them, I hate to bring this up. 2 minutes remaining in the football game, 4th and 5. Josh Allen, they line up in the 4-by-1. They do the counter motion to get to a 3-by-2 formation. Allen drops back. Obviously, there's cap pressure. He's capped by a safety rolling down to Josh's right. The defense is left. And next thing you know, Josh has got multiple defenders in his face. He makes the throw, and Dalton Kincaid has to retrace steps, doesn't make the play. Take me through what you saw here.
Okay, so, my first issue, and listen, I think Joe Brady's done an excellent job in Buffalo this season, really the last season and a half of calling plays. But if you study Steve Spagnuolo, in critical situations, you have to expect pressure, and they go with a 5-man protection, right? 5-man rush, 5-man protection overloaded. I just don't understand in that situation how you're not in 6-man pro. I know Buffalo loves to do this, but given the guy you're going against, right, playing this chess match, how do you not have a back in there to account for the 4-week, which is their number one thing in high pressure situations, to give Josh a chance, right? Like, I thought Josh made an unbelievable play given the circumstances of trying to avoid free runners, giving, Dalton Kincaid an opportunity on that. But this is the separator, right? You not only have to be perfect from your execution against the Chiefs, you have to be perfect in your scheme and your timing of play calls and having the right protection set. I just don't understand not having 6-man pro in that situation and having a back to maybe clean up one of those things so there's not a free runner to give Josh a chance. What are your thoughts on that? You're an expert in the pass protection area.
We had him where we wanted and we let him off the hook. To your point, you know that Steve Spagnuolo is not going to change his stripes. You know that, big dog. And you'd be the first one to say, hey, we gotta go Ringo here. Let's get a ram call. Let's bring our left guard down in the center. We can kick our center out there to pick up one of these extra guys. I'm an O lineman. I can see that corner's capped. I can see the safety is coming off his post at the top right of the screen. We know that there's something coming. And to your point, add those guys into protection.